चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वञ्चाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। शील प्रभुपाद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवताम की जय। सर्वशास्त्रादि पीयूष सर्व वैदिक सत्फला सर्व सिद्धांत रत्नाद्य सर्वलोकैक धृत सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद् भागवतो प्रभु कलिद्वंतोतिरादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाठाय प्रेम वर्ष अक्षराय ते सर्वद सर्वसेवाय श्रीकृष्णाय नमोस्तुते। मद एक बंधु मद संगीन मद गुरु मद महाधन मन निष्ठार्क मन भाग्य मद आनंद नमोस्तुते। असाधु साधु तादाइन अति नीचो च ताकर हाना मुंचा कदाचिन्मां प्रेम न हृत कंथयो स्पृह। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायण नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जय मुदीरे। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna. So thank you for joining. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we are in Canto 2, Chapter 7, and we are going to discuss text number 17 onwards. Okay, so we have covered, and we are discussing this section where Narad Muni has asked questions to Brahmaji, and Brahmaji has given the different answers to the 6 specific questions. And after that, at the end of the last chapter, Brahmaji on his own, he actually said, now I'm going to describe over the different Leela avatars. And just by hearing this, all the anartha, the dust accumulated in the heart will actually be washed away. Right? He used the word karna kashaya shoshan. Right? So all the foul matters accumulated in our ear and in the heart will actually be washed away by hearing these Leela avatars. Okay, so text number 17. So I don't have the order posted, and maybe someone would like to start. Gopinath Sharma, start. Text 17. You could do the Sanskrit and the English translation.
गुणेरवराजोऽपि अधीतसूतानां लोकान् विचक्रम इमान् अथाद्य यज्ञ श्यामं यमनेन जग्रे त्रिपादच्छलेन यस्नावृते पतिचरन् प्रभुभिर्न चाल्य. The Lord, although transcendental to all material modes, still surpassed all the qualities of the sons of Aditi, known as Adityas. The Lord appeared as the youngest son of Aditi, and because he surpassed all the planets of the universe, he is the supreme personality of Godhead. On the pretense of asking for a measurement of 3 footsteps of land, he took away all the lands of Bali Maharaj. He asked simply because without begging, no authority can take one's rightful position.
Thank you, Prabhu. So, up to text 16, the last two verses, we have been reading the incarnation of Hari, who actually came to save Gajendra. Right. So, we talked a little bit about Gajendra Moksha, and also in the previous purport, we actually, it's very nice that in the purport of text 15, the prayers of Gajendra, because that's a very, very beautiful section of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, just a touch upon the prayers have been given. So, four particular words we discussed, actually words that, six particular words have been used to actually describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we discussed those, where the Lord is called Adi Purusha, Akhila Lokanatha, Tirtha Shrava, and Shravana Mangala. Four words, right? So we discussed that. So very nice giving. So as I mentioned, all these pastimes we are reading, and we are stuck at trailer, and the movie will come later in the further cantos. Right. So we are going to just get excited that all these pastimes are going to be described. So as we come on, we'll as we further proceed through our Bhagavatam, we'll be coming on to detailed description of these different pastimes. Okay, so Gajendra Moksha is in Canto 8. Now we are reading about Vamanadev. So two verses are actually describing Vamanadev. So if you see the Sanskrit in this verse, it says Jayan Gunair. Jayan Gunair means he has the greatest of all qualities. Now, whenever we talk of qualities, normally we associate qualities in this material nature, you know. But the qualities of the Lord are not of this material world, and hence it actually says avarajaha. They are transcendental qualities, right? And that's why the word api is also there. So although he has like qualities, so someone may think in this material world, yes, there are so many people. Yeah, he may be the best of all in this material world. No, no, no. He has qualities, but all those qualities are actually transcendental. Hence, the word api is actually used. Then it says what? Aditya or Aditya Sutana. Aditya referring to who? Aditi, right? So Diti and Aditi, the two wives, right? So Aditi's son. Sutana means son. So the Vaman Dev, he appeared as the son of Aditi, right? And this is actually throughout the theme of this chapter, that wherever the incarnation is mentioned, the parents' names are also given in most of the cases. And Prabhupada actually uses this point in purport to say that we do not accept anyone as incarnation unless they are there in the Shastra, their parents' name, and also sometimes place of birth, and important thing, function. Like the chapter title itself is incarnation with specific function, the function of this, right? So the son, so Vamanadev is actually appeared as the son of Aditi. Okay. Then further it actually says, Lokan Vichakrame Iman. He surpassed all the planets, and hence he is the Supreme Personality of God. Right. So who can actually do this? We know the story of Vamanadev, how he came to Bali Maharaj, he begged for 3 steps of land. So even further he says, Jagre Tripada. Tripada means 3 steps. Right. So he accepted 3 steps of land. And then when he actually took those 2 steps, he actually covered the entire universe, right? And then by that, it's actually said, with 2 steps, he covered the entire universe. Who can be greater than that? That personality has to be the Adi Yagya, or the Supreme Personality of God. Because he surpassed all the planets in this universe, right? He is the Supreme Personality of God. And then, right, Chalena means by cheating or by pretension. So Vaman he actually came as a nice, like sweet Brahmana boy, right? We know the story, right? Very small Brahmana boy. But he actually, what did he do? Yashnam. Yashnam means begging. He begged, and by cheating, he took away everything that Bali Maharaj possessed. You know. Now, Prabhupada actually further explains, Pati Charan Prabhubi, the last part of this, the last line of this verse, actually says that why did Bali Maharaj? Why did the Vamanadev? He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and hence is the proprietor of everything. Right? If you are the proprietor of everything, then everything is already yours. So why did Bali Maharaj had to come in the form of a Brahmana, like in the brahmachari vesh, and then actually beg, and by cheating take away this? Right? So that is also explained that because Bali Maharaj, he had rightfully claimed because he actually fought the demigods, and by fighting with the demigods, he actually claimed even the heavenly planets because he had rightfully claimed it. The Lord did not come and say, "Oh, this is mine, I will take it away." He said, "No, no, he has rightfully claimed it. The way I'm going to take it away is I'll come in a form and I will beg for it. And because Bali Maharaj is very charitable, he will give, and then I can actually take it away." Okay, so Prabhupada in the purport actually talks about how this is described in the 8th canto of the Bhagavatam. So we'll come to that, right? Right. So first point Prabhupada is actually explaining, because the point I just made, Lord is the proprietor of everything. He can take everything, but because Bali Maharaj had rightfully claimed those possessions, the Lord came on the pretense of a beggar Brahmana, and then he took the 3 steps. Okay, now another very nice point Prabhupada actually makes in the purport, that we know in the story that Shukracharya, he already knew that this boy is Vishnu, and by his actually asking even for 3 steps, he's going to take away everything. And then in the 8th canto, you'll see there's actually 2 chapters. One chapter is all about Shukracharya giving reasons why he should not give charity to Vamanadev. He tells Bali Maharaj, and almost like 9 or 10 reasons are actually given by Shukracharya to Bali Maharaj, that don't give charity to this. Right? And then in the next chapter, Bali Maharaj speaks in such a way, and he actually refutes every one of the points that Shukracharya actually said. And hence he says, because of this, I can actually give charity. Right? Now, Prabhupada, he concludes this purport very nicely. Right? So one may say the Lord came and he took away everything from Bali Maharaj. Right? So Bali Maharaj disobeyed his guru and agreed to give him in charity. So one way Bali Maharaj lost everything. Is that right? Yes, it is right, but Prabhupada is saying, actually, because he gave everything to Vishnu, instead of losing everything, he actually attained the most precious thing. He attained the constant companion of the Lord. Right? Hence, Prabhupada says that by giving everything to the cause of the Lord, one does not lose anything, but he gains everything that he could never otherwise expect. The last line of the purport, so nice, right? So there's a very practical point also. Sometimes when we are giving donations or giving something to Krishna, saying, "Oh, I'm giving. Am I the loser here?" No, no. When you are actually giving to Krishna, then Krishna gives in such a way that we cannot even beyond our expectation, Krishna will give. And this point is actually further explained in the next verse also. So we'll talk more about this importance of giving to Krishna. And when you give to Krishna, you're never the loser. That is elaborated further in the next verse. Okay, so let's see. Next, anyone would like to go ahead? I don't have.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Translation, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. With the sloka rise.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Nartho Maleraya Murukrama Padashaucha Mapa Shikha Drutavato Vibodhatipatyam Yuve Pratishrutamrutena Chikri Shardanya Datman Manga Manasa Hare Mene. Translation, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bali Maharaj, who put on his head the water washed from the lotus feet of the Lord, did not think of anything besides his promise, in spite of being forbidden by his spiritual master. The king dedicated his own personal body to fulfill the measurement of the Lord's third step. For such a personality, even the kingdom of heaven, with which he conquered by his strength, was of no value. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we are continuing. This is the second verse talking about Vamanadev. So in this verse, if you see the Sanskrit, it says Nartho Balera. Okay, so Nartho is na artha, right? And Balea means strength. So never of any value in comparison to the strength. So what is this comparison here? So we know there's some comparison, but let's see what is the comparison. So you see the next few words, it says Urukrama Pada Socha. Urukrama referring to who? the one who does amazing or wonderful things, and that is referring to Vamanadev, right? So another name for Vamanadev is also Urukrama, because he actually took the krama is also referring to a step, and he took the uru, the big step, right? So that is also Urukrama, is another name of Vamanadev. And also Urukrama also refers to the one who does extraordinary tasks, right? Krama could actually refer to feet, right? So, or step. So one who takes great step, or krama could also refer to activity, one who does extraordinary activity, right? Urukrama pada saucham. So the water that has washed the lotus feet of the Lord, right? So apa is the water there. So one comparison is this: the water that has washed the lotus feet of the Lord. And then in other side is Vibhuta Adhipatyam, right? So what is Vibhuta Adhipatyam? Supremacy over the kingdom of the demigods, right? So one side, Bali Maharaj has the supremacy over the kingdom of the demigods. And okay, so that is one side. So he had that, but he actually gave everything. And what is that? Pratishrutam. He actually promised, yes, 3 steps, I will give you 3 steps. So you actually take 3 steps, I'll give you. And because he actually fulfilled what he had promised, so that Pratishrutam word is that what was duly promised, he actually gave that. Right? Okay, and then it says Atmanam and Manasa Hare Abhimani. So Atmanam referring to he dedicated his own personal body after taking 2 steps. Then Vamanadev actually asked, where can I put the 3rd step? And then he said, okay, you can put it on my head. And that way he gave his own body. And then Manasa Hare Abhimani. Right. So within his mind, he also dedicated himself to Hare, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right. So in the 9 process of bhakti, we have one example that is given for each one, right? And what is the aspect of Bali Maharaj that's actually given?
Atmanivedana.
Atmanivedam, right? So that aspect of Atmanivedam. So not only did he actually dedicate his body, but also mana. It says here, Manasa, he actually dedicated his mind also to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So, right. So basically, the point here is comparison. In this comparison of receiving the water that has washed the lotus feet of the value, in that comparison, even that supremacy over the kingdom of the demigods, and it has no value. So that's the point that we have been I mentioned previously, that when you give to the Lord gives in such unexpected things that you're never the loser. So he took away the supremacy of the kingdom of the demigods, but in return, what did he give? He actually gave the water that actually washed his own lotus feet. Right? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in this purport, he actually says that someone may say it is improper that the Lord, he's the supreme personality of Godhead, he's the absolute truth, right? He's the absolute truth. Then why should he do chala? Or why should I actually cheat? So that's not proper for the Lord to do. But the point is, the Lord takes away. When he takes away something, he does it with an intention of giving something of even greater value, right? That is the nature of the Lord. So Prabhupada says in the purport that when he's actually quoting Prabhupada, the first part of the first paragraph of purport, he's quoting this verse from the 10th canto, 88th chapter, text number 8, 10:88:8. Right, which actually says, Yasyaham anugrinami harishe tad dhanam shanay tato dhanam tyajate asya swajanam dukha dukhitam. Right. So basically that verse, the Lord himself is speaking and say, if I especially favor, if I give some special mercy to someone, I gradually take away his wealth, his relatives, his friends. And then he's actually forced to swajana dukha dukhitam. He's forced to go through some suffering. But by that, why is that special mercy? One may say that is all I possess. And dukkha dukhitam, the Lord is placing me in dukkha. How is that the mercy? And here, Prabhupada explains the point. When the Lord snatches away one's hard-earned material possession, and then what does he favor? He gives that person his own personal transcendental service for eternal life, bliss, and knowledge. And such is the special favor of the Lord upon his pure devotee. Like even Srila Prabhupada actually made this point. When his entire business was stolen, when he was in Allahabad, Initially, like, he was very successful in his business. It said like all over North India, he was the sole distributor of pharmaceutical, right? So successful. But then everything was taken away. And then Prabhupada said, this was a special favor of the Lord. He took away everything so that, and then what did the Lord give Prabhupada in return? His own personal service. Right? His own personal service. And Prabhupada is a pure devotee, he's always engaged in the service of the Lord. But just to teach us that this is the special favor of the Lord, that if he takes away everything, he gives something to the devotee which is unimaginable. And here Prabhupada is saying he actually gives his own personal transcendental service. Right? So here in this verse, the comparison is, what is more precious than the water that has washed the lotus feet of the Lord? That water is so amazing that even the Lord wants to taste the dust of his lotus feet, right? So you must have all seen the photo of Krishna as a baby form, right? On the leaf, sucking his own toe. And why is he sucking his own toe? He's saying like, how much nectar the devotees find in the dust of my lotus feet. Even I want to see it, right? So in return, the Lord has given that water onto Bali Maharaj. Okay. Then Prabhupada makes a very nice point. He says, see, the nature of any material possession we have is temporary. Anything material we have is temporary. And only two things can happen. One is either we voluntarily give it up, or second, it is taken away from us. There's no other choice. So if we don't voluntarily give up, then either by the nature of the material world, it'll be taken away, or at the time of death, everything is taken away. Right? So a sane person should actually think about this and say that, anyway, it is all temporary. It is going to be taken away. So before it is taken away, what is the best investment I can do with it? And what is that best investment? That best investment is to give to Krishna. Right? So there is nothing better than actually using our material possessions to give to Krishna. Otherwise, they'll be taken away. So there's this Vaisheshika Prabhu tells the story of when he actually went to the Holy Dham. He in every Kartik he goes to Govardhan. So one year he tells the story that he went to Govardhan, and then from Govardhan every day, like from our if you know our palace, ISKCON palace in Govardhan, Bhaktivedanta Palace, then he walks all the way to he does the parikrama, goes to Radhakund. So once he went, and then he went to Radhakund, and he took a dip in Radhakund, and as soon as he came out, all his clothes, possessions, everything taken away. Everything. And if you know how Vrindavan is, like within a second, things can disappear. Whether that's from a monkey or other people, it just disappears. So he was in Radhakund, and all of a sudden, everything was taken away. And then he had this, his system that every time he used to actually go to Govardhan, at the end of the stay, he used to give a nice donation to the Bhaktivedanta ashram. At the end of the stay. And then when this happened, that his possessions were taken away, he said, why am I waiting till the end? They can be taken away anytime. Let me right now give the possession. Right? And let me give. So immediately he went back. First of all, he gave the donation to the ashram, and then he said, like, okay, that's the first thing, because otherwise it'll get taken away. So that's the nature of the material possessions, that we can never hold on to it. Either voluntary give up or is taken away. So the intelligent person should say, anyway is going to get taken away. Let me do the best investment. And that best investment is to give to Krishna. Then further, Prabhupada actually takes the purport further and explains the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Very nice verse. Nirmana moha jita sangha dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvandher vimukta sukha dukha sangha gachanti amuda padam avyamtat. So in that 15th chapter, we know how Krishna explains the reflection of the banyan tree, right? And then he talks about how we can actually go from the reflection to the real world, to the spiritual world. And he says we have to give up certain things. What is that? False prestige, nirmana, moha, right? Jita sangha dosha, we have to give up illusion, we have to give up false association, then lust, right? We have to get freed from the qualities of happiness and distress, right? And then we have to understand the eternal and surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in that way, we can actually go from this reflection into the reality. Right? So, very nice verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Nirmana moha. You have to give up our false prestige. So, Prabhupada is actually making the point, taking this verse and saying, yes, the way we can actually progress. So, Prabhupada says, therefore, the more one spiritually advances by devotional service to the Lord, in exchange for his temporary possessions, the more one is freed from the attachment of material illusion. Right? You found that one sentence in the purport. Very nice sentence. Therefore, the more one spiritually advances. And how is he advancing? By devotional service. He's engaging in devotional service. But at the same time, Prabhupada says, in exchange for his temporary possessions. Right? The more we hold on to the material possessions, the more it is like, we are trying to get out, but we are holding on to so much baggage. This is difficult for us to progress in our spiritual life. How sometimes it's compared to like prisoners, right? They want to get free. But if they are actually holding on, they are tied with like iron chains and heavy weights, then they have to drag themselves, out of the prison, try to get free. Very difficult. So similarly, as on we hold on to material possession, they are actually like those iron chains holding us down to this material world. And then we are saying, oh, why am I not making progress? Why am I not making progress? Because you're holding on, you have the heavy weights. How can you even walk? So similarly, Prabhupada is saying that we have to, in exchange for his temporary possession, the more one will be freed from this nirmana moha, jitat sanga dosha, will be freed from the attachment of material illusion. Okay? So we have made this point earlier also. It is not that a rich person, a person who has a lot of money, is not qualified for devotional service. It is more the feeling of possession that we have. If a person has a lot of opulence, but he's using everything in Krishna service, or even internally he's thinking that actually all this Krishna has given me, but he is the proprietor. So whenever there's opportunity, I will use it in his service. It's all Krishna. Then it's totally fine. Then Krishna might give him more and more because he's all using in Krishna service. But if we have the opulences and at the same time we are thinking, oh, this is for mine, right? We say, okay, one for Krishna, one for me. Right? Two for Krishna, but at least one for me, right? So that way we actually divide. Our faith is not 100% in Krishna. But we say, we have to come to a point, Krishna, this is all yours. You will give, you will take. It is all yours, right? So let me voluntarily use everything in Krishna's service. So that is the mood of vairagya, the detachment. But how will that detachment come? Through vidya, knowledge, and bhakti. So all these three aspects are important. Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. Shikshartaham Purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shariradhari Kripamburi Tam Aham Prapatte. So we offer obeisances to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came to teach us what? Vairagya, Vidya, and Bhakti. Right? All three. Okay, so further Prabhupada says that we should have firm conviction of spiritual existence. To know the permanency of spiritual value, one must voluntarily practice, right? Possessing less or only minimum to maintain one's material existence without difficulty. Right? So one must voluntarily practice possessing less or only the minimum to maintain. So basically the point here is having a simple life, simple life, just mainly focusing on what are the basic necessities I need. And that necessity is different for different people. But we should actually think, why am I holding on to so much? Can I simplify my life? And give things to Krishna regularly. Right? And then further, Prabhupada actually talks about civilization. And he talks of 4 different civilizations. Civilization of sense gratification. What is that? That is the civilization practiced by Dvipad Pashu, right? 2-legged animal. Civilization of sense gratification. Then he says, above that is civilization of mental speculation, where certain spiritualists, they use their mind, and speculate on what is the spiritual reality. But beyond that is the civilization of intellect or intellectual civilization. And what is that? That civilization is where we actually understand the Buddhi Yoga of the Bhagavad Gita, right? And then we actually come to the level of civilization of the spirit soul. So 4 civilizations. 2 of them are negative: civilization of sense gratification, civilization of mental speculation. But the positive is intellectual civilization leading to civilization of the spirit soul. So what kind of civilization are we practicing? You can think about this. Are we focused on sense gratification, or are we using our intelligence as given in the Shastras to study the Shastra and coming to the platform of civilization of the spirit soul? Okay. And then Prabhupada glorifies the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is a complete human civilization dealing with the subject matter of the soul proper. Right? So Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching us the civilization of the spirit soul. Right? And Bali Maharaj has actually accepted the civilization of the soul in exchange for the greatest material happiness, even that sovereignty over the demigods. Okay. Okay, so let's proceed. So that is about Vamanadev. So text number 19.
Hare Krishna. Text 19. Tubhyam chanarada bhrisham bhagavan vivruddha bhavena sadhu paritushta uvacha yogam gnanam cha bhagavatamatma satatva deepam yadvasudeva sharana viduranja saiva. Translation. O Narada, you are taught about the signs of God and his transcendental loving service by the personality of Godhead in his incarnation of Hamsavatara. He was very much pleased with you due to your intense proportion of devotional service. He also explained unto you lucidly the full science of devotional service, which is especially understandable by persons who are soul surrendered unto Lord Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
What is the next incarnation here? Hamsa Avatar. Okay, Hamsa Avatar. So he says, Tubhyam. Tubhyam, what is the activity of Hamsa Avatar? Tubhyam, unto you, O Narada. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, why is the word cha used here? Right? It says, Tubhyam cha Narada. Cha actually referring to, he's saying, oh Narada, you yourself are an incarnation. Right? You yourself, and we read about this right earlier. The Narada himself is an incarnation. So he's saying, Tubhyam, unto you, O Narada, the Lord, he appeared as a Hamsa avatar, and he brisham, he very nicely explained what? Transcendental. He actually explained, okay? And then why did he explain to Narada? Because Vividra Bhavena, because you have developed transcendental love for the Supreme Lord. And then by that love, the Lord was paritushtaha. He was satisfied, right? He was pleased with your devotional service. And hence he actually uvacha, he described. And 2 kinds of yogas are actually, 2 types of knowledge is actually given here, right? So first knowledge is referred to here in the verse as Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam, so what are 2 kinds of knowledge? Bhagavatam is the science of God and his devotional service. Right? So Krishna is the object of devotion. Krishna, let's see how this. Right. So 2 types of knowledge. One that has Krishna, who is the object of devotion, as the subject. So the subject of the first kind of knowledge is Krishna, who is the object of devotion. And the second kind of knowledge is that pertaining to the Jiva, who is the shelter of bhakti, and that is the subject. Right? So 2 kinds of knowledge. So Hamsa Avatar, he explained Narad Muni both these kinds of knowledge. Bhagavatam Jnana and then Jnanam itself. Right? So these 2 words have actually been used. So Bhagavatam referring to, let's say, the Lord's beauty, his activities, his qualities. So all that knowledge is actually referring to the Bhagavatam. Now the second one, the Jnanam, is actually pertaining to Jiva. Jiva who? The Jiva who is here in this material world, who is actually subjected to the influence of Maya. So that kind of knowledge which actually removes that covering of ignorance and reveals the true nature of the Jiva, that kind of knowledge is Jnana, referred here by the word Jnanam. So these 2 kinds of knowledge, he has actually explained it to Hamsa. Okay. And then in the last word actually says Vasudeva Sharanaha. Those who have actually surrendered unto Vasudeva, they eva. Eva means what? As it is. Bhagavad Gita, as it is. Right? As it is. So similarly, eva here referring to they can understand this knowledge as it is, as Krishna has given to Brahma, or Krishna here Hamsa Avatar has given to Narada. Right? So the last word of this verse, eva, as it is. Right? So those who are Vasudeva Sharana, they vidu agyasa, they can perfectly know this knowledge as it has been explained. Okay. Now, Hamsa Avatar. Now, where is it there in Bhagavatam? Anyone knows?
11th canto.
Yes, 11th canto. But there actually, the 11th canto Hamsa Avatar is actually described there as a Hamsa Avatar, but there it is actually talked about how Hamsa Avatar comes and he gives knowledge to Brahma and the four Kumaras. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is actually saying, well, that the Hamsa Avatar is different from this Hamsa Avatar, because here Hamsa Avatar is giving knowledge to Narad Muni. So, as such, in Bhagavatam, we don't have this particular Hamsa Avatar explained in detail, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that the Hamsa Avatar described in the 11th canto is a different Hamsa Avatar.
Okay, 3rd canto, right, Prabhuji?
No, 11. 11
No, the Sanat Kumar and Brahmaji, the Lord explained.
11th canto, Mataji.
11, okay.
11th
Thank you.
canto, chapter 13, where Hamsa Avatar comes and he speaks to Brahma and the four Kumaras.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, so let's see the purpose. So Prabhupada actually makes a point. He says devotee and devotional service, right? So they actually always go together. Devotee means devotional service. And then Prabhupada explains the point that why even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna actually makes the point, Bhakto asime sakha cheti, rahasyam hi etad uttamam. Now, why is Krishna telling Arjun, I will reveal this knowledge to you? Why? Because Bhakto asime sakha cheti, because you are my friend and also my devotee. Right? So only such a person who is a devotee of the Lord can actually understand this knowledge. So the preliminary qualification for entering into a devotional service of the Lord is that one become a willing cooperator. And as such, one should voluntarily cooperate with persons who are already engaged in devotional service. So what is Prabhupada making the point? That right now, how can we actually understand devotional service? Right? We are conditioned jivas, right? We may say that we are not devotees, we have so many anarthas in our heart. So we have to voluntarily cooperate. Finally, we have to become a willing cooperator of the Lord. Whatever the Lord wants, we want to act as an instrument in the Lord's service, right? So our position right now is we have become rebellious from the Lord, and then we have to transform our consciousness to become a willing cooperator. But right now, because all these anarthas are there, right, we do not it's like kind of a blockage for us to become a willing cooperator. And we say, yeah, a little bit to Krishna, but a little to me also. Right? So one should, to solve that problem, one should voluntarily cooperate with persons who are already engaged in devotional service. That means what? We actually cooperate with the devotees of the Lord. We come to the Vaishnavas and say, how can I serve you? You have given your life completely to Krishna. You yourself are a willing cooperator of the Lord. If I assist you in that way, then I can also become a cooperator of the Lord. Right? So one has to cooperate with such devotees, and these devotees will give what? So if you see the part of the purport, the first paragraph towards the end, by cooperating with such persons, the prospective candidate will gradually learn the techniques of devotional service. And with the progress of such learning, one becomes proportionately free from the contamination of material association. Okay, so now what is being described here? Anyone can already guess? And then Prabhupada says further, such a purification process will establish the prospective candidate in firm faith and gradually elevate him to the stage of transcendental taste for devotional service.
The 9 steps of from
Yeah. Yes, the 9 steps. So you see Prabhupada's purport, he's actually talking of the 9 stages of bhakti, right? So when we actually at least have the faith to willingly cooperate with the devotees of the Lord, that is the first Shraddha, right? And then Shraddha and then Sadhu Sangha. sadhu sangha, associating with such devotees. And then bhajana kriya. Bhajana kriya, when Prabhupada says one will gradually learn the techniques of devotional service, right? And then as we are progressing in our learning, then we proportionately become free from the contamination. What is that? Anartha nivritti, right? And then further it says one will get firm faith, nishtha, then transcendental taste, ruchi, then he acquires genuine attachment, ashakti, and then he says his conviction carries him to the point of ecstasy, that is bhav, and then just prior to the stage of transcendental love, that is prema. So you see like how Prabhupada, just in these like 3 sentences, he's already describing Shraddha all the way to prema, and so wonderful. Okay, so this is the progress of a jiva from his state of condition, where he has turned away to Krishna, to the stage of become a willing cooperator of the Lord. Okay. And then, so I already explained 2 kinds of knowledge. Is that clear? Bhagavatam and Jnanam. Right? So those 2 words, Jnanam may be used at different places with different explanation, but here the word Jnanam is actually referred to the knowledge of how the jiva, conditioned jiva, can get free from the anarthas and reconnect to Krishna. And Bhagavatam is directly the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Bhagavatam is giving us what? The Bhagavatam here or the Jnana? Srimad Bhagavatam, what kind of knowledge is giving? The Bhagavatam or the Jnana?
Bhagavatam.
Okay, but is that Jnana or no?
Both.
Both, yeah. So Prabhupada actually explains that Srimad Bhagavatam is giving both these kinds of knowledge. It's actually saying how a jiva can get free from the influence of the material covering. Like in 3rd canto, Devahuti asked this question to Kapila. It's like the mind is so naturally attracted to material objects that I feel like it's impossible to detach the mind from material things. And then Kapila Deva is actually giving the answer. So both these topics are actually given in the Bhagavatam, and hence Bhagavatam is the perfect knowledge. So Prabhupada says Bhagavatam helps one very genuinely remove artificial covering, and hence it is actually the lamp of transcendental knowledge. And hence Bhagavatam is giving us everything, right? It talks about a relation of the relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his beauty, fame, opulence, and how the jiva can actually engage in devotional service to the Lord. Everything is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so this is Hamsa Avatar. Right? Any questions up to this point? Okay, so next verse, text 20.
Hare Krishna. Chakram cha dikshva vihitam dashasu swatejo manvantareshu munivanshadharo bibharti drishteshu rajesu damam vayadhata swakritim satye triprishtam ushatim prathayam shacharitre. As the incarnation of Manu, the Lord became the descendant of the Manu dynasty and ruled over the miscreant kingly order, subduing them by his powerful wheeled weapon. Undeterred in all circumstances, his rules was characterized by his glorious fame, which spread over the 3 lokas and above them to the planetary system of Satyaloka, the topmost in the universe.
So what is this incarnation here? Manvantara Avatar. Right? Manvantara Avatar is being described. And it actually says Manvantareshu in the different incarnations of Manu. Right? So the Prabhupada explains the point in the purport. That we already discussed this. In one day of Brahma, how many Manus are there? 14. Right? 14 Manus.
14.
Right? Yeah, 14 Manus in one day of Brahma. So in 1 month, how many? Multiply by 30, so 420. In 1 year, how many? 5,040 Manus, right? That's 1 year of Brahma. And then if you consider entire lifetime of Brahma, 504,000 Manus are there in one life of Brahma. And the Lord is actually appearing again and again, in this lifetime of Brahma. So if you consider this from the Lord's perspective, the Lord will say, all these are like prisoners. They have rebelled against me. and they have sent to the prisoners. Okay, I will send once in a while someone. But the Lord does not do. It comes again and again and again and again and saying, when will this conditioned jivas learn? Right? When will they come back to me? This is the kripa, the mercy of the Lord, that He actually comes again and again and again. So Prabhupada focuses on that point in the purport. He says, just imagine how the incarnation of the Supreme Lord work all over the material worlds. So they come again and again, and this, right? This is only one Brahma we are talking of. How many Brahmas are there? Unlimited. So many Brahmas are there. So imagine how the Lord is actively coming for every Brahma. And our Brahma, 5040, 504,000 Manus are there. Imagine for all the Brahmas, the Lord is coming again and again. So how the Lord is actually incarnating, just imagine, right? And the other points in the verse, it actually says, so Manu Mantareshu, in different incarnation of Manu, and then says Manu Vamsadhara. He comes in the Vamsadhara, in the Vamsa of Manu, right? So the lineage of the Manu dynasty. And when he comes, what does he do? What is his function? Bibharti. He rules over Dushteshu. Dushteshu referring to the miscreants, right? So when he comes, he actually destroys or kills all the miscreants, kings. And then particularly then he says, how does he kill? He actually uses chakra. Just like how the chakra of the Lord can destroy everything, similarly the Manu comes and Manvantara comes and he destroys all the miscreant kings, right? And his glories are spread. Swakirtim, his glories, personal glories, are three prishte, are actually spread over all the three planetary systems up to Satyalok. So all the three planetary systems know the glories of the Manvantara incarnation when they come, when he appears, and then he actually kills the miscreants. And also the word Dashashu is used. That means 10 sides. Just like when the Sudarshan Chakra is released, all the 10 sides, any demons, everything is annihilated. Similarly, when Manvantara incarnation comes, everyone, all the miscreants in all the 10 directions are annihilated. Okay. So next verse, text 21. Is it okay, everyone? Okay, text 21. Anyone who's not read?
धन्वन्तरिश्च भगवान् स्वयमेव कीर्ति नाम्नानुनां पुरुजा रुजुआशुहन्ति यज्ञे च भागम् अमृतार युववरुन्धा आयुषवेदम् अनुशान्ति वतीर्यलोके. Sorry. The Lord, in his incarnation of Dhanvantari, very quickly cures the disease of the ever-diseased living entities, simply by his fame personified, and only because of him do the demigods achieve long lives. Thus, the personality of Godhead becomes amplified. He also exacted a share from the sacrifice, and it is he only who inaugurated the medical science or the knowledge of medicine in the universe. Thank you.
And so in this incarnation, text 21 is the incarnation of Dhanvantari, right? Dhanvantari. So it says Dhanvantari cha Bhagavan Swayam Eva, right? So the Lord, he actually personally appeared as Dhanvantari. And when did the Lord appear as Dhanvantari?
Churning of the
Dhanteras.
When the churning of the milk ocean was taking place, the Lord actually appeared with Dhanvantari as Dhanvantari. And also it says Bhagam Amrita, right? Bhagam Amrita. He actually appeared with what? The pot of Amrita, right? So he actually appeared with that pot of Amrita. So Avaruddhena Eva. He obtains the share of nectar from the demons in the yagya, in the sacrifice. And then further it says, Nrinam Puru Rujam. Okay, so the word is used, Nrinam Puru Rujam. Of the disease living entities, Rujaha, diseases, Ashu, very soon. Right? So Dhanvantari is also, he is the one who actually inaugurated the medical science. And also the words you see, Ayusha Vedam. Ayusha means long life. right? He actually came and he inaugurated the medical science by which one can have long life and one can actually Nrinam Purujam Ruja. All the diseases, Ashu can be Hanti very soon cured out. Very soon cured. So all the diseases can very soon be cured by the medical science, which was actually inaugurated by Dhanvantari. So the two functions are how he actually came and he inaugurated the medical science, and by that, all the diseases of the condition living of the conditioned jivas can be cured. And the second thing, he actually brought forth the share of nectar when he actually came from the churning of the milk ocean. So Prabhupada in the purport, he talks about how everything finally emanates from this ultimate source, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? Janmadya asya yataha. Everything is coming from Krishna himself. So even the medical science has to come from Krishna. So the medical science was inaugurated by the personality of Godhead. The Vedas are the source of all knowledge. So certainly there is knowledge of medical science, right? Ayurveda, we say. Again, Ayu means long life. Veda means knowledge, is coming directly from the Ayurveda. Right? Then Prabhupada says, the embodied living entity is diseased by the very construction of this body. What does that mean? The very construction of the body is that it is created so that there will be diseases. Like my Guru Maharaj often used to make this point. If you consider any part of the body, let's take this finger. How many ways can you give pleasure to this finger? Maybe it just touches something soft and you feel like, oh yeah, very soon. How many ways can you give pain to this finger? Unlimited. Put a pin, like press it hard, or sometimes in between the door the finger comes, or then the nail, you get nail infection. How many ways you can get disease to this finger? This little part of the body. Unlimited ways. How many ways can you get happiness? Very, very limited. Very limited. So the construction of the entire body is that it's actually designed so that there will be disease. The body is a symbol of disease, Prabhupada says. The entire body is a symbol of disease. Right? So we should actually, understand, why, this whole point of like the entire body is created in such a way that there'll be disease, there'll be pain, there'll be suffering. Then why are we given this kind of body? I want to break free from this body. I want to reconnect to who I really am. Why should I actually have this covering, which is giving me constantly pain at every moment? I should come back to my original position. And that is one way, initially, that could be our motivation to dive deeper in spiritual life. Initially. But later on, our motivation is finally to serve Guru, to give pleasure to Guru. And then the highest motivation highest motivation is to give pleasure to Guru and Krishna. Right? Anything we are doing is to please Guru and Krishna. Right? So initially, one can use this as a motive. Oh, I want to get free of this body of suffering. Right? Okay. And then Prabhupada also says here in this purport that the Lord is also known as Bhavoshadi. Anyone remembers where this word comes? Bhavoshadi. We discussed this in Bhagavatam, in first canto. Anyone remembers that? Bhavoshadi. Oh, actually, it comes not in the first canto, it comes in the 10th canto. Nivritta Tashay Upagiyamanan Bhavoshadi Shrota. So 10th canto, first chapter, text number 4. Right? So that word Bhavoshadi comes. So Prabhupada says the Lord is known as Bhavoshadi. Bhava Oshadi. Bhava means this material condition. Oshadi means the medicine. So the Lord is not only teaching us as Dhanvantari, as how we can get free from the diseases of the body, but the Lord is also teaching us as Bhavoshadi how to get free from this disease of repeated birth and death. Right? So that way it is. So that verse actually 10.1.4, very beautiful verse. Nivritta Tashay Upagiyamana. Right? Then it says Bhavoshadi. That just by hearing this nectar of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that is the Bhavoshadi by which our repetition of birth and death can actually be finished. Okay, text number 22. Go ahead, anyone who's not read. Okay, let's see. Mohan Lavang Manjir Mati, can you read? Venkat Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Okay.
Kshatram Kshaya Vidhinopabrutam Mahatmaya Brahmadurga Ujitapatam Narakriti Lipsu Udhantya Asaya Avanikantam Ugravish Virasya Stri Sapta Kritva Urudra Parasadena. Translation. When the ruling administrators, who are known as the Kshatriyas, turned as astray from the path of absolute truth, being desirous to suffer in hell, the Lord, in his incarnation as the sage Parshurama, uprooted those unwanted kings who appeared as the thrones of the earth. Thus, he thrice 7 times uprooted the Kshatriyas with his keenly sharpened chopper. Hare Krishna.
So this is which incarnation? 22 is Parshurama. Incarnation of Parshurama. So it says Shatram Shayaya. Shatram Shayaya, referring to he actually, when he, what was the function of the Lord? He came to annihilate the Kshatriyas. Right? Shatram Shayaya. He came to annihilate the Kshatriya. Then Ujita Patham, right? Ujita Patham means those who have given up the path of the absolute truth. What kind of Kshatriyas? Those who have actually given up the path of the absolute truth. And then Naraka Arti Lipsu, those who are desirous to suffer pain in hell. Now, who would be desirous to suffer pain in hell? No one, right? So why is this word used, Naraka Arti Lipsu, one who's desiring to suffer in hell? Basically, the point is when the kings act in such a way that they have given up the path of the absolute truth, then that means they are desiring to suffer in hell. So it is that way it is actually used. So those Kshatriyas who are Ujita Patham, who are given the path of the absolute truth, and then Naraka Arti Lipsu, and in that way they are desiring to suffer in hell, then Udhanti Avani Kantakam. Just like one actually may take out a thorn, from let's say a thorn has pierced our finger, how one may just pluck out the thorn. Similarly, this avatar, Parshuram, he actually exacted these thorns, like the kings, from the surface of the earth. And how did he do it? Ugra Viryaha. Ugra means very, and Virya means powerful. Of is very, very powerful. And then 3 Sapta. Right? Sapta means 7, and 3 means 3. So 3 times 7. So 21 times Parshuram, he actually annihilated these Kshatriyas. Right? And how did he do it? Urudhara, with a very sharp Paraswa Dhena, with a great chopper. So if you see, I'm sure you have seen the photo of Parshuram, he holds this great chopper. And with that chopper, he actually annihilated all the Kshatriyas 21 times. And we'll read about the story of how who was that? Kartavirya Arjun, right? He actually came, and when there was a fight with Parshuram and Kartavirya Arjun, he actually sent, like I think it's described like 14 or 16 Akshuhuni soldiers. If you consider the entire battle of Mahabharat, there were 11 plus 7, 18 Akshuhunis, right? And here, Kartavirya Arjun, he himself sent 16 Akshuhinis. And Parshuram alone on one side, 16 Akshuhinis, and he destroyed all those 16 Akshuhini soldiers. And finally he came, and then he destroyed Kartavirya Arjun. Okay. So, and we'll read more about Parshuram. And the purport Prabhupada is actually saying how, first of all, the Kshatriyas, they are supposed to be factual representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So that's the true Kshatriya is one. Shat means he protects. So he protects the people from injustice, but he also protects the people from committing sinful activities because of which they will suffer. And how does he do that? He actually teaches them the path towards God realization. So that is the duty of a Kshatriya. That's Prabhupada says the prime responsibility of the kings or the Kshatriya is to lead the citizens towards God realization. Now, if you see our current politics, people run away from that side. People say, as soon as they talk of God, everyone is like, oh, we won't vote for this person. But their prime duty is actually to lead citizens towards the path of God realization. And then Prabhupada says, why is that? Because the purpose of the whole creation is to give a chance to fallen souls who have rebelled against the will of the Lord, right? We have to correct our RRA, right? What is it? Rebellious attitude. We have to reform our rebellious attitude, right? So RRA, right? So we have to reform our rebellious attitude. And whole purpose of creation is actually to reform our rebellious attitude. And the duty of the kings, the leaders, is to guide people towards that. Okay. Right. And then Prabhupada also makes a point that, when the kings actually, they commit violence against Brahmanas, because Lord is Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitayacha. Right? So because the Lord is so dear to Brahmanas, when the true Brahmanas are actually, violence is committed against them, then the Lord does not tolerate. And he comes and then he destroys these Kshatriyas. Okay. And Prabhupada also says that when Parshuram, he actually annihilated the Kshatriyas, then many of these kings, they actually fled away from Bharatvarsha, from India, and they actually ruled in places like Egypt and other places. They actually spread to different Greece, Egypt, everywhere. The kings were actually spread out. Okay, so that is Parshuram. Okay, text number 23.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Asmat prasada sumukha kalaya klesha ikshvaku vamsa avatriya gurur nideshe tistan vanam cha daitinja avivesha yasmin viruddhya dasha kandara artim archahat. Translation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Due to his causeless mercy upon all living entities within the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with his plenary extensions, appeared in the family of Maharaja Ikshvaku as the lord of his internal potency, Sita. Under the order of his father, Maharaja Dasaratha, he entered the forest and lived there for considerable years with his wife and younger brother. Ravana, who was very materially powerful with 10 heads on his shoulders, committed a great offense against him and was thus ultimately vanquished. Hare Krishna.
So now 3 verses describing Lord Ramchandra, and after 10 verses describing Lord Krishna. Okay, so 3 verses. So first of the 3, here in this verse it says prasada. Prasada means by his mercy, right? Not only just food prasadam, but prasadam itself means causeless mercy. So because of his causeless mercy, upon who asmat, right, unto us, beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant ant, because the Lord is merciful upon everyone, the Lord actually, he has appeared as Kalaya Kaleshaha. Kalesha means the Lord of all the potencies, right? So that means the Lord who is full, the full incarnation with 6 opulences in full. That is Lord Ramchandra with Kalayaha. Kalaya means his plenary extensions. And who are the plenary extensions of the Lord? His 3 brothers, Lakshman, Bharata, Shatrugna, right? So it is said Lord Ramchandra is an expansion of Vasudev, Lakshman is an expansion of Sankarshan, Bharat is an expansion of Pradyumna, and then Shatrugna is an expansion of Aniruddha. So these are actually the Kaleshaha, Kalaya. Kalaya is the expansions. Okay. So he's appeared, Avitarya means he has actually appeared with these plenary expansions. And then he said, Ishvaku Vamshe. right? Ishvaku Vamshe, where the Lord Ramchandra appeared in the dynasty of Ishvaku, sun god. And then Guru Nideshe. Here Guru referring to actually spiritual master or also father. So on the Nidesha, on the order of the Guru or the father, Tishtan Vadam, he actually went to the forest, and then Daitya Anujaha. Daitya referring to what? Daitya, we use the word Daitya, right? Daitya means wife. Anuja means younger brother. So with his wife and younger brother, Vanam, he entered into a forest, right? And then after what happened? Virudhya Dasha Kandara. Dasha Kandara, who has 10 heads. Virudhya, he actually rebelled. He committed a great offense against Lord Ramchandra by kidnapping Sita, and hence he was ultimately vanquished. Ravan was ultimately vanquished. Okay, so Prabhupada in purport says that how all these four brothers are actually Vishnu Tattva. There are some philosophers who say that no, only Lord, they may either accept Lord Ramchandra and say that other three brothers are, they don't accept them as Vishnu Tattva, but here Srimad Bhagavatam is clearly the most authentic scripture is establishing that the Lord is Kaleshaha, but he has come with Kalayaha, means his own internal potency. So Lakshmi ji is the internal, or Sita is the internal potency of the Lord, and the four expansions are Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrugna. And then Prabhupada also talks that how when Lord Ramchandra comes, he's the ideal son, ideal husband. So as an ideal son, when the father said, this is a situation, he said, okay, no problem. 14 years, I'm going to Dandakaranya forest. He just left. And one last point Prabhupada focuses here in the purport. He says, Sita is Lakshmiji, or the goddess of fortune, but she is never to be enjoyed by any living being. She is meant for being worshipped by the living being along with her husband, Sri Ramchandra. Right? So this is very common in India. They do Lakshmi Puja, but they don't worship Krishna or Vishnu. Right? And Prabhupada often in lectures we hear, and they go to Lakshmiji and they say what? Dhanam Dehi, Rupam Dehi, and all these Dehi. So they want to enjoy the opulence of Lakshmi without worshipping the master of the goddess of fortune, which is actually Narayan or Vishnu. Right? And then Prabhupada here is actually making the point that is to enjoy the opulence of Lakshmi without connection with Lord Ramchandra is actually the mentality of Ravan. Right? So if we are enjoying the opulence of Krishna for our own sense gratification and not using that for the service of the Lord, then that is the mentality of Ravan. Okay. So we should actually always use whatever opulence comes to us in the service of the Lord. Okay. So next, we'll just do two more verses. We can just do the English and then we'll stop. So maybe you can go ahead. English of text 24. Okay, anyone can go ahead.
Hare Krishna translation. The personality of Godhead, Ramachandra, being aggrieved for his distant intimate friend Sita, glanced over the city of the enemy Ravana with red-hot eyes like those of Hara, who wanted to burn the kingdom of heaven. The great ocean, trembling in fear, gave him his way because its family members, the aquatics like the shark, snakes, and crocodiles, were being burnt by the heat of the angry red-hot eyes of the Lord.
Yeah. So here if you see the Sanskrit, Yasmai, unto whom Ada gave Udadihi, the great Indian Ocean. And then Udabhaya, affected by fear, like the body is trembling, right? So basically here the point is actually the pastime is said that when Lord Ramchandra reached, the Indian Ocean, and then the Indian Ocean was not giving way, then the Lord actually just glanced at the Indian Ocean. And his glance was what? Rosha in anger and Sushoshana, red hot. That drishtya or that glance was red hot. That tatap yamana. Tatap yamana means burning in heart. All the makara, the ugara, the nakra, all the aquatics, they were burning in heat just by the red hot glance of the Lord. And that is actually compared to Haravat, just like Mahadev or Lord Shiva, he burned the Tripura. right? So the entire story is of the three palaces and the Lord Shiva, how he burned them. So just like that, the Lord glanced over the Indian Ocean, and out of fear, finally, Margam Sapadi, the Indian Ocean, the Great Ocean, out of fear, it came and surrendered unto Lord Ramchandra. And then what did it do? Margam Sapadi. It actually gave the path, the Marga, for Lord Ramchandra and the Vanar Sena to cross over to Lanka. So Prabhupada in the purport, he actually makes a point that the Lord, someone may say, Lord is getting angry. What kind of Lord is this? So someone may challenge that, oh, how can the Lord be angry? The Lord should be always Shanti, 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 and that's why people think. And the impersonalists, when they actually think, when they hear, oh, the Lord is getting angry, they say, oh, that is simply a material sentiment. And that proves that finally the highest conception of Lord is the impersonal Brahmajyoti. So that's their conception. But here, Prabhupada is actually making a very nice point. He says, the personality of Godhead as every sentiment of a sentient being. So anger is also a sentiment, right? So Prabhupada gives this point. So if something is there in the reflection, right? So if you have a reflection on a mirror, you're seeing a reflection. That means it has to be there in the original. So if there are any sentiments here in this material world, they have to be present in the original Supreme Personality of God. Otherwise, how can something come in a reflection without being in the original object? Right? It makes sense, right? A reflection cannot have anything beyond what is there in the original object. So then Prabhupada actually makes a point. So yes, the Lord is Nityo Nityanam, Chetanas Chetanam. He is the chief or the original among all the living entities. So the living entities have certain sentiments, but the Lord actually has those sentiments in the pure or the transcendental form. Right? So the Lord, he actually enjoys this rasa, the rasa of being angry, right? So he enjoys that kind of rasa. And what is the proof that this rasa of the Lord is transcendental, right? And Prabhupada explained that just by the anger glance, like we may get angry on someone and we may glance at someone with an angry mood, but what happens? Nothing happens. The person may glance back with an angry mood and say like, what? Why are you getting angry? But when the Lord glances in anger, the entire Indian Ocean, all the aquatics burn in heat because just of the anger glance of the Lord. This proves that the sentiments that the Lord experiences is not mundane. It is actually transcendental. It is very special. So Prabhupada uses that point and explains that point in the purport. And Prabhupada also said, Janmadi Asyayataha. He's the source of everything. Therefore, he cannot be devoid of any sentiments, right? So sentiments, the Lord actually enjoys all these different rasas. So that is the glory of the Lord. Okay, the last verse, let's do 25. Anyone like to read?
When Ravana was engaged in the battle, the trunk of the elephant, which carried the king of heaven, Indra, broke in pieces, having collided with the chest of Ravana, and the scattered broken parts illuminated all directions. Ravana therefore felt proud of his prowess and began to loiter in the midst of the fighting soldiers, thinking himself the conqueror of all directions. But his laughter, overtaken by joy, along with his very air of life, suddenly ceased with the tingling sound of the bow of Ramachandra, the personality of Godhead.
So this is the last verse describing Lord Ramchandra. So basically in this verse it says Vakshastala, chest, right? Touched by Sparsha, and then Rugna, broken, Maha Indra, king of heaven. So basically here in this verse is actually saying that when Ravan was engaged in the battle, the trunk of Airavata, right, which actually carries King Heaven, was broken into pieces when there was this fight between Ravan and Airavata. So the trunk itself was broken, and by the trunk, when it was broken, when it collided with the chest of Ravan, it broke into so many pieces and is scattered in all directions. And when the pieces of the trunk scattered in all directions, it actually illuminated, like the word is used, vidambita, it actually illuminated all the directions. And then when Ravan actually destroyed this trunk of Airavata, then he actually Uda Hasam. Hasam means laughter. He became overwhelmed with laughter, right? Overtaken with laughter. He's saying, "Oh, see how powerful I am." And then he started laughing. But Sadhya, within no time, what happened? His laughter, along with his life air, Vinashati, was killed. The laughter of Ravan, along with his life air, was killed when what happened? Vispurjitahi, when there was the tingling of the bow, right? So he actually was so powerful that he could destroy the trunk of Airavat. But when he actually laughed with that pride, then when Lord Ramchandra tingled the bow, the tingling of the bow, and that destroyed the laughter of Ravan just by hearing that bow of Dhanusha, that thing. So it says, Vispurjitahi Dhanusha. That bow, the tingling of the bow of the Lord Ramchandra, that itself destroyed, created fear in the heart of Ravana, and then his laughter was actually destroyed. Laughter, and also life air of Ravan was actually destroyed. Okay. And Prabhupada in the purport, he actually, very one sentence purport, but so wonderful. He just says, however powerful a living being may be, when he is condemned by the Lord, no one can save him. And similarly, however weak one may be, if he is protected by the Lord, no one can annihilate him. Mare Krishna, Rakhe Krishna. If Krishna wants to kill you, no one can protect you. Rakhe Krishna, Mare Ke. If Krishna wants to protect you, who can kill you? So this is a very nice point to actually always meditate, that if we are always protected by the Lord, then who can actually touch us? When the Lord wants to kill someone, then who can protect that person? So this is 3 verses of Lord Ramchandra. And then from 26 all the way to text 35, we'll have a touch about the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll touch upon the different pastimes from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll talk about Govardhan Leela and different. Nanda Maharaj was saved from Varuna, then how the Kalia was actually chastised, and then how the twin Arjun trees were actually destroyed, how Putana was killed. All those beautiful pastimes from 10 canto will get a trailer in the next 10 verses. Okay, so we'll stop here. So I have to go actually because I take Prabhuji, His Grace Mukunda Prabhu to another program. So I have to leave in a few minutes. So we'll have to stop here. Okay. So are there any questions? So Vijay Mati, you have a question?
Prabhuji, if you're getting it, I can ask later. No problem.
No, it's okay. I can take a question like 5 minutes more.
Okay, Prabhuji, I understand that Lord enjoys all the rasas, but saying that if something is there in reflection, should be there in the original. There is so much evil in this real world, which is reflection. So intoxication, I mean, so many things are there. So Prabhu, we can't expect that those are in the spiritual world, right?
Yeah. So see, the problem is it is a reflection. How 15th chapter clearly says, right? We are the banyan tree reflection. So everything is there in reflection, but it is there in the perverted form. It is there in the perverted form. Like even lust, right? Where is lust coming from? Right? In 10th canto, it talks about the gopis' lust, but it's not lust; it's pure love. Right? So that pure love for Krishna, it manifests here in this material world as lust. So every sentiment here is actually there in the spiritual world in the pure form. Here, what we see is in the contaminated form. So even when we talk of like intoxication, there people are intoxicated in love for Krishna. So it's a different form of intoxication. So everything that's here in the material world, in its pure form, is there in the spiritual world.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Any other comments? Anyone has anything from today's reading?
Prabhuji, I really like that how there are innumerable universes, but Krishna is so kind. He comes so many times, again and again, again and again, again and again.
Yeah. One way Krishna is like completely satisfied with all the gopis and like all the rasa are there in the spiritual world. He's Raso Vaisaha, right? He's Akhila Rasamrita Murti, right? He's the embodiment of all rasa. So much enjoyment there. Still, he cares for each one of us, and hence he comes again and again and again and again, and sends his representatives and keeps coming to remind us. Oh, Jeev Jago, foolish souls, Jeev Jago, come back to me. You can enjoy with me. Come back. Right? So that's the kripa, the merciful nature of the Lord. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I really like the point. The lesson, the take-home lesson from the Ramayana, that the policy of exploiting the nature of the Lord without acknowledging the supremacy of the Supreme Lord is the policy of Ravana.
When you hear that, it's like really like, eye-opening. It's like, what? I am following Lord, I am following Ravana? No. I follow Hanumanji, not Ravana. So let me actually unite Sita and Lord Ramchandra. That is our seva. So when we actually engage opulence in service of Lord Krishna, Lord Ramchandra, then we are actually uniting the opulences with Lord. So we want to be followers of Hanuman, not followers of Ravana. Thank you.
Prabhuji, I just have one question. Not a great question, just out of curiosity. In text 24, the last, in the verse itself, it says Chakraha. But here in the translation, it says, Lord used the angry red hot eye of the Lord. Why the chakra word is coming? I didn't. I'm like, it's not a great question, not to break my head, but just out of curiosity.
It's called Makara, Uraga, Nakra. So those are all aquatics in the ocean.
Right.
And then Chakra, let's see.
Chakra means like disc, I thought. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't see Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also referring something to that. So I'll have to think more about this. Unless anyone else on the group has some thoughts over that. Okay, so I'll think more, Mataji, and see.
No problem, Prabhuji. It's not a great question, as I said.
Oh, that's interesting. The chakra, you see whatever. Because normally when I study also, like I try to see each word and see how that relates to the meaning, to the translation. And it's a good way of studying, so you can see, like, that's why I say.
Right. I used to ignore like that. But you are teaching us like this, like word by word and reflecting to the Sanskrit. So
yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mati. Anyone else? Okay.
Prabhuji, one point is like two ways. There are only two ways. Like either you give it away voluntarily, or it is being forcefully taken away. Yeah. So, and the best investment is to give it to Krishna.
Yes, it's such a nice point. Huh? You can meditate that everything in this material world is all temporary. Either you have to voluntarily give it away, or it will be forcefully taken away. So before it's forcefully taken away, let's just voluntarily give it away, and that is the real intelligent thing to do. And how do you give it? Then you give it to Krishna. That's the best investment. And the example, the whole point of Vamana Dev is Bali Maharaj gave it to Krishna. He gave what? He gave the supremacy over the demigods, right? His supremacy over the Svargalok. He gave that away. And in return, what did he get? The Lord reciprocates in unlimited, unimaginable ways. That he himself gave his personal association. He gave his own planet. He gave the water that's washed his lotus feet. And that way he gave the best, the highest return possible. Right? So our best investment is to give everything to Krishna. Give our possessions, give our property, everything. Krishna, this is all yours. And finally, Krishna, I am yours. And then beyond that, there is something else. When we come to what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught us, when we come to the stage of Mamata, beyond claiming that Krishna, I am yours, we come to the stage that Krishna, you are mine. And that is the mood of Mamata. That's the mood of our rag, where we finally come to the point, Krishna, you are mine. Everything here is yours, but you are mine. Okay, so we'll stop here on this note. So we'll continue. So next time we'll finish. I think hopefully we'll finish this. Let's see. There's actually okay, Krishna Lila is there, then few more incarnations, but then it is again Brahma is actually making the point that you cannot understand the greatness of the Lord without the mercy of the Lord. Then he establishes how the Bhagwan realization is the highest realization, even higher than Paramatma and Brahman. And then he just gives a summary of the knowledge he's given, and that ends this chapter. Okay, so we're coming towards the end of Canto 2. I want to check if can we do the exam next Saturday for 4, 5, 6. Is that okay? 1 week time. Because the weekend after, then again Amarendra Prabhu will be in town. So then again we'll get busy. So that's why I'm thinking if next Saturday everyone is okay, we can do chapter 4, 5, 6. We can do the close book exam on that. Yeah. Okay, I'll post a message on the group and you all can confirm if that works. Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone like any it's okay or yes or no?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. So anyway, I'll post a message on the group also. So if you have any concerns with that date, you can always let me know. Okay. Shri Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vanchakalpatarubhyasya, Kripasinubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Also, and I'll post on the group, but when you finish Canto 2, there will also be a shloka, you should remember shlokas, but not as many as the first canto. But I have to see the exact number, but I think it is just 6 shlokas from Canto 2. So I can also, so you can already start preparing for it. We have time until the end of the 10th chapter of this, but you can already start memorizing at least 6 shlokas from the entire Canto 2. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you all for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much,
Dhanavad.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dhanavad.
All the devotees. Hare
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much, Suji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.